There is a specific kind of silence that only exists at 3 o'clock in the morning in East Tennessee, when the rest of the world is dead to the world, and you are the only one awake because your own body has decided to turn against you. I remember those nights vividly. I would be dreaming about something ordinary, maybe being back at the warehouse checking the manifests, and then it would hit. It starts as a dull tugging deep inside my calf muscle, and before I can even blink, it turns into a white-hot bolt of lightning that locks my leg into a position it was never meant to hold. It feels like a thick, hard knot of wood is being jammed under my skin. I would lurch out of bed, gasping for air, trying to find a way to put my foot on the cold floor, but the muscle was so tight it felt like it might snap a bone if I moved the wrong way. Linda would wake up startled, asking me what was wrong, and I couldn't even find the words to tell her because I was too busy gritting my teeth against the pain. If you have ever felt that sudden agonizing cramp that makes you feel like a prisoner in your own bed, then you know exactly what I am talking about. It is not just a little twitch. It is a disruption that robs you of your rest and leaves you feeling like a shell of yourself the next morning when you are trying to climb the stairs or just walk out to get the mail. For a long time, I just figured this was the price I had to pay for getting older. I thought my legs were just worn out from 30 years of walking on concrete floors and moving heavy pallets. But then I started looking into it because I couldn't live like that anymore. I found a report not too long ago that really shook me. It said that more than 1 in 3 people over the age of 60 deal with these exact same nighttime leg cramps. That means there are millions of us lying awake in the dark, clutching our legs and wondering if we are ever going to get a full night of sleep again. When I saw that number, 1 in 3, it changed how I looked at the problem. I realized it wasn't just me being old and broken down. It was a widespread issue that most of us are just suffering through in silence because we don't think there's a real solution. It turns out these cramps can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes, but the soreness they leave behind can stay with you all through the next day, making every step feel heavy and uncertain. I spent months trying to figure out how to stop the cycle, and I eventually narrowed it down to 4 specific things that changed everything for me. I am going to walk you through exactly what I do now. There are 2 physical movements that take less than 2 minutes total, and then 2 other small habits that I wish someone had told me about 10 years ago. One of those habits sounds so simple you might think I am pulling your leg, but it was actually the thing that made the biggest difference in how my feet felt when I woke up. I am going to save that one for the end because I want you to understand the mechanics of the muscle first. I am not a doctor, and I never claimed to be one. But I am a man who has lived through the pain and found a way out on the other side. I have talked to dozens of guys my age who were ready to give up on ever sleeping through the night, and once they started doing what I'm about to show you, their lives changed just like mine did. You see, back when I was supervising the logistics at the depot, I learned that if a machine is seizing up, you don't just keep forcing it to run. You have to find where the tension is and release it before the whole thing breaks. Our legs are the same way. The first thing I learned to do is something I call the knee massage. It sounds a bit strange, but it is the most practical way to get deep into the calf muscle without needing a fancy gadget or another person to help you. I found that if I lie on my back, I can use my opposite knee as a tool. I just place my cramped calf right over the top of my other kneecap. Then I move my leg back and forth, letting the hard surface of the knee act like a roller. I remember telling my friend Jim about this. Jim worked with me for years, and his legs were so thin and brittle he was afraid to even touch them. He was having cramps every single night, and it was making him so tired he was starting to stumble during the day. I showed him how to use his own knee to work out those tender spots in the muscle. I told him to look for those places that feel like a little marble under the skin and just spend a few extra strokes there. When I first started doing this, I found a study that looked at this kind of deep pressure on the muscles. They took a group of seniors who were suffering from these nocturnal cramps and had them perform this kind of targeted massage. The results showed that over 60% of them saw a massive reduction in how often the cramps hit and how intense they were when they did. For me, it wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the feeling of that knot finally letting go. It feels like you are finally giving the muscle permission to stop fighting. Jim called me about 2 weeks after I showed him, and he sounded like a new man. He said he hadn't had a single wake-up call from his legs in 4 nights. That is the power of just understanding how to move the tension out of the body instead of letting it sit there and fester. The second movement is all about the way we position our feet. My daughter Megan, who spends her days as an occupational therapist helping folks recover their independence, explained to me why this matters so much. She told me that as we age, our muscles have a tendency to shorten up, especially if we spend a lot of time sitting or if we sleep with our toes pointed down. When the muscle is short, it is primed to cramp. So I started doing what I call the point and pull. While I am lying there, I point my toes down as far as they will go, and then I pull them back toward my shins with everything I've got. It is a simple stretch, but you have to be intentional with it. I do about 10 or 12 of these on each leg. At first, it felt like my toes might cramp up just from the effort, but Megan assured me that was just the muscles waking up. She showed me some data from a clinic she follows where they had patients do these ankle stretches before bed. Almost 80% of the people in that group reported better sleep quality within the first month. I started doing these every single night right before I turn out the lamp. It has become a ritual, like locking the front door or checking the stove. It prepares the legs for the long period of inactivity that comes with sleep. I want to pause here for a second because I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking that you have tried everything and nothing works. I felt that way too. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with Linda, holding a cold compress to my leg and feeling defeated. I felt like my body was a house that was falling apart faster than I could fix it. But the key is consistency. You can't just do these things once and expect a miracle. You have to give your body a reason to change. You have to show those muscles that they don't need to be on high alert all night long. Before I get to that one habit that really changed the game for me, I want to make sure you are really hearing me. If you are struggling with this, don't just watch this and forget it. Try it tonight. Just give it 2 minutes. Your independence depends on your ability to move, and your ability to move depends on the rest you get at night. Now, let's talk about that habit that sounds almost too simple to be true. It was actually Linda who noticed it first. She's always been the observant one in the house. One morning she was making the bed, and she asked me why I always kept the sheets tucked so tight at the bottom of the mattress. I told her that was just how I learned to do it, like I was in the army or something. She pointed out that when the sheets are tucked in like that, they are constantly pushing my feet down into a pointed position while I sleep. Remember what Megan said about the muscles shortening? Those tight sheets were basically holding my legs in a cramp-ready position for 8 hours a night. I decided to try untucking the top sheet at the foot of the bed, just to see if it made a difference. It felt strange at first, having my feet loose, but within 2 nights the frequency of my cramps dropped significantly. It was like I had finally taken the shackles off my ankles. I've talked to a lot of neighbors about this, and it's amazing how many of us are sabotaging our own sleep just because we want the bed to look neat. A man named Bill, who lives down the street, had been taking all sorts of pills for his leg pain, and nothing helped until he untucked his sheets. He told me it felt like he had been fighting a ghost all night, and he finally won. The final piece of the puzzle for me was something Megan suggested after seeing me rub my legs for the 100th time. She told me about magnesium. Now, I'm not big on taking a bunch of supplements if I don't have to, but she explained that you can put it right on the skin. I started using a magnesium cream on my calves before bed. The way she explained it, the magnesium goes straight to where it is needed most and helps the muscle fibers relax. There was a big review of different studies on this, and while the doctors are still debating exactly how much gets through the skin, the anecdotal evidence from people like us is overwhelming. For me, it was the final layer of protection. When I combine the massage, the stretching, the loose sheets, and the magnesium, it's like I've built a fortress around my sleep. I haven't had a major cramp that woke me up in months. I want you to think about how much different your life would be if you didn't have to fear the night. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling refreshed, instead of feeling like you've been through a physical battle. I remember how much better I felt the first time I went a whole week without a cramp. I was able to spend the whole afternoon out in the yard with my grandkids, running around and lifting them up without that nagging worry that my legs were going to give out or lock up later that night. That is the freedom I want for you. It's not about being a world-class athlete. It's about being able to live your life on your own terms. There is a real sense of relief that comes when you realize you aren't helpless. For years, I felt like the aging process was just something that happened to me, like the weather. But I've learned that we have more control than we think. We can't stop the clock, but we can certainly keep the gears oiled. When I look back at how I used to suffer, I almost feel sorry for that version of myself. I was so stubborn, thinking I could just tough it out. But pride doesn't stop a muscle cramp. Action does. My son Derek is a lot like I was. He owns his own HVAC business, and he is always pushing himself too hard, ignoring the little aches and pains. I tell him all the time that the smartest thing a man can do is listen to his body before it starts shouting. If you are dealing with these cramps, I want you to take a look at your own routine. Are you holding on to tension in your calves? Are your feet being forced into a bad position by your bedding? Are you giving your muscles the minerals they need to stay calm? And these are small things, but they add up to a big difference. I've seen it happen for Jim, for Bill, and for myself. It's a transition from being a victim of your own body to being the person in charge of it. It's a shift in how you see yourself. You aren't just an old person with leg problems. You are a person who is taking active steps to protect their mobility. I've also had to learn that some of the things I was doing to be healthy might have been working against me. I used to take some medications that the doctor gave me for my blood pressure, and it turned out that some of those, like the diuretics, were actually making my cramping worse. I had to have a real conversation with my doctor about it. He looked at the same studies I did and agreed that we needed to adjust things. That's why I always tell people to keep their doctors in the loop. We have to be our own best advocates. If something doesn't feel right, don't just accept it. Ask why. Look for the cause instead of just trying to cover up the symptom. The path to getting stronger after 60 isn't always about lifting heavy weights or running marathons. Sometimes the most important work happens in the quiet moments before bed. It happens in the choice to spend 2 minutes taking care of your legs instead of just falling into bed exhausted. I've found that when I take care of the small things, the big things tend to take care of themselves. My legs feel more reliable now than they did 10 years ago, and a big part of that is because I stopped letting the night cramps dictate how I lived my days. I am going to be right here, continuing to figure this out as I go. Every day is a new chance to learn something about how this body of mine works. I hope you'll join me in that. I want you to try that knee massage tonight, just once. Feel for those knots. Try untucking your sheets and see how it feels to have your feet free. It might seem like a small thing, but your independence begins in your legs, and it's up to you to keep them moving. I'll be back soon to talk more about how we can stay strong and keep moving forward no matter what the calendar says. For now, I just want you to focus on getting a good night of rest. You've earned it, and your body deserves it. Take care of those legs, and they'll take care of you. I'll see you in the next one. In the ear.